The value of the useless life. Millennials of most of the kids of my generation, I guess, were accused of taking it slow, taking it lazy, taking it easy, wasting away their life. And I think at this time, you know, more kids are back with their family, unable to support themselves. And we have the failure to launch, generation. The movie, and alluding to the movie with Matthew McConaughey. When at my last college class, English critical thinking, they made us go over the story. It's called Master of the Universe, about what it means to like make it, quote unquote, be the success. So today, but the thing about Taoism is just they completely take the opposite direction. I mean not Barton Russell. G.H. Hardy says in the mathematician, like in most, I forget the exact quote. Um, he said basically it goes somehow like a mathematician is basically gives the whole, like, for a mathematician the whole game is the gambit, basically something along that line. Just Google, just look it up. G.H. Hardy gambit code. Basically he bets his whole thing. But that's not analogous to what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is like the opposite. You flip it. The complete flip, not volte fast. The negative, the flip side of the image. The shift happens when you realize everything, things that society demonize or vilify or patronize or look down upon, can actually be exalted if you look from the right perspective and lens through the right loop of a gem cutter. And speaking of which, gem cutting reminds me of the Japanese concept orionoi or something, like okionoi or something, where the pottery, after they break the pottery, they piece it back together. When they're like a good pottery, the Japanese, they piece it back together, and the broken cracks, they lace it with gold. They glaze it with gold. They plate it, and that becomes an art, work of art, valuable, because nothing is useless at the end. In Dakar, Senegal, they take trash and they make art out of it. But we have this, especially like everywhere. And now it's not only a Western concept, America, it's even in India, Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, whatever, they have this concept you must amount to something. Raymond Smullyan wrote a story about not amounting, about a guy who didn't want to amount to anything. And it's a beautiful story. I highly recommend to check it out. And basically, this guy, he didn't want to amount to anything in life. He was a Taoist, sort of hippie, but he never did drugs. And his friends, they had this. He and his cohorts, and not his cohorts. He started gathering attention from others, like hippie followers who subscribed to his ideal not to amount to anything in life. And then one day, to his horror, he saw, and fill in the blanks. You read the rest of the story. So we also have this sort of, generation nowadays. And even myself, what I'm trying to say is COVID-19 is exposing how, and I'm not saying it with a tone of Schadenfreude, and probably it is in Hintergedanken, in the back of my mind, there's a tone of told you so, slight Schadenfreude, of this bitterness and spite. And what can I do? I have that if I have that. But the bigger you are, the harder you're falling right now. The bigger you're bawling, if you could not do without your fucking $5 latte after your gym, and you signed the contract with your cell phone bill, your dish and cable, and going to job after that. I'm not shitting on a successful life, but at the same time, if you were one of those, you thought, oh, you denigrated and snickered at those other people who didn't amount to anything or didn't were trundling through life sort of aimlessly. Well, guess what? The joke's on you now. And again, I don't mean it with spite, but I'm just saying, like nature is a great leveler of humility. And prince or pauper, it doesn't matter. I mean, if you could have been under delusion, you're free for a homeless guy on bike collecting trash cans, and even for you, life is harder right now. So in Taoism, and I'm in my Taoist clothes right now with shorts, like a fucking Muay Thai type of short, no undies, and a stained white t-shirt, plain white t-shirt with stain. So I'm in my Taoist mood right now, and in Taoism, they value the useless life. Like Zhuangzi or Confucius, they would, and his troop and his following, his posse would walk around the forest, and they would come to a tree's dead stump, not a stump, sorry, a tree, and there would be stumps on the other side, and there's this rotten tree that is still like 100 years old, like a Methuselah tree, with gnarled, twisted, crooked branches with barks with like mice and like lice infesting them. I'm just making things. I don't know if lice actually lives in the stumps. Not the stumps. I mean in the bark of the tree, like in the, you know what I mean. What do you call those burrows, those holes in the tree? I'm sure they're like knurl is, I think, a terminology. Knurl or KNULIRL or something like that. Basically, it has to do knot, node. They are interrelated. Gnarly, I mean, gnarl node. Need, I don't know what is the etymology of need is. But anyway, so they'll come to that tree and it has been standing for 100 years. And the guy and the Confucius or whoever, Zhuangzi, would point it out and say, hey, the only reason it survived because no one wants it. Coffee maker doesn't want it because it's bad wood. Hut maker or wood carpenter, no one wants it. And that's the secret to longevity, is because it survived because it's useless. Taoists also value like the disabled people, like, because they say, Alan Watts used to talk about, yeah, this guy who gets support from the government, like in back in the ancient China. I mean, he would be like first first in the line to get, their food. Apparently, like King Soldier would come trot gallop to the area and disseminate, distribute food like ration, uh, and they would be the first in line. But when it came to draft, they would be the last in line. And if you're taking a sandal and shit, like beating your like head, your forehead, what a shitty life you have been. Right now, I think one of the most, like, it feels heavenly just driving down the freeway or whatever, driving down the street with fresh air coming, with music blasting, just for things, just little things. People would do anything, would give anything because it sound heavenly. Because and that we actually took it for granted. Any a simple thing, even just as simple as taking a bus and going to the beach, and or going to the library, or going to McDonald's or Starbucks or whatever. Any simple things, because we're too busy chasing this invisible thing, goodie, that we thought that would make us happy. Taoists talk about the value of the useless life. If the bigger you're balling, if you had a Lamborghini payment, and this is no mean a Schadenfreude at all, because I don't have it, because I'm bitter. But there are pros and cons to all sorts of lifestyle. I mean, we led a simple life, and we miss the simple life, the life. And as for us, it was for me. I mean, at least it seems that it was perfect as it was, and that's the insight people come back with after their, like Prometheus. They try to get fire after their heroic trip to this Epic of Gilgamesh trip, Beowulfy trip to psychedelic realm, and coming back, the insight they get is life was perfect as it is, and it's an Advaita concept. Again, I talked about it before. Google James Schwartz, the world is perfect as it is. People are too busy trying to make a difference. Everyone want to make a fucking difference. We matter. Whether it be stupid blog or podcast. Hey, look, listen to me. Like, comment, and share. You know what? Don't fucking like, comment, and share my video. I beg you. I urge you. It's the most disgusting thing you can give it to me. Don't comment. Don't like. Don't subscribe. Don't fucking hit the notification bell. It's this is me being me, like me, Taoist, anti-cultural, anti-countercultural, anti whatever, like me, rebel to the point, rebel to the core, like, that's the gist of Taoism. Like, Taoists talk about, um I alone drink from my mother breast, which is the nature, and I am alone, I'm depressed and aimlessly floating around, I have no purpose. It's almost like this God is God through the lens of Lao Tzu, this fat, paunchy, pot-bellied guy is like saying, "Fuck you, this is me. Fuck you, what you value. I shit on what you value, and I become what no one wants to be. I become that gutter, the shitty water in the fucking Coriolis section in the fucking drain. That's who I am." It's almost like a bad saying. And the danger to that is people might think you don't have self-respect, you don't take yourself seriously, and you're dirty, you're gutter, you're in the gutter, you're like you stink. And yes, if you take it too literally, there's the danger of that. But anyone can be a Taoist. You can be all this good-looking guy, top model like Wentworth Miller in Prison Break, photo, the image photo for the front page or whatever, this perfect alpha male Navy SEAL guy, perfect intelligent hitman, Agent 47, like you know what I mean, the shit, the bomb, and you still can doubt James Bond. On the other hand, you can be this, this grungy guy, getting all baked in a hippie like environment with fucking, what do you call those those crystal those cartoons made of crystals and shit. You know what I'm talking about. So it doesn't matter, but the point being, because the Tao that can be talked about is not the real Tao. So once you put it, the moment you put a label, you deny it. Heidegger said that. I think Wayne Dyer used to say, Heidegger, once you label me, you deny me. Heidegger used to say that, I guess. So the Taoists, so the bigger you are, the balling. I mean, I ain't exactly raising elephants here, but we have just our needs, basic needs are met. Needs are met. The shelter, food, and that's it. We don't need anything else. Gas, I mean, we're not going out. Most people don't need gas. I mean, that's all we need. Income. I live with my mom. My mom supports me, and in return, I help her out, take her to groceries, and do doctors. We lived a simple life. So now, if all our life we were thinking, what was the purpose of this? We haven't reached the multi-billion-dollar house and the car, Rolls Royce and shit. Doesn't mean that we don't doesn't have value. Or Usain Bolt, for that matter. I use his name because he's like, or Roger Bannister, or you can pretty much take anyone. Like, we have this notion that unless we become the top, that we reach the zenith, we are not the shit. Like the peak, that unless you don't make it. Joe Rogan also has the elitist mentality, snobby, like unless you haven't made it. A lot of people subscribe to this elitist mentality. Especially this rampant stench, and stinks and stenches in the whole self-improvement community. They want to create a problem and use a solution, and the only way you can do it is by getting more and more. Take the next course, go to the next seminar. It's like Alan Watts would say, they steal your watch to sell it to you. Zen master is real Zen master. You go to him. If you ask a question, he'll give you 40 blows. If you don't ask a question, he'll still give you 40 blows. In other words, what the fuck are you doing here, defining me as student, a teacher, and defining yourself as student? A real teacher has nothing to teach. And I found some one of those rare individuals who are not he's never motivated by greed and selfishness and money, monetary. Like one Navy SEAL guy. He was a Navy SEAL teacher of Ron White, the memory guy, and I think I wanted to ask his help, to coach me, and he flat out said no. He's like, he basically, the gist of his message was, anything that I can force myself to do, why do I need his help? And that's just ornamentation, cosmetics, because we think that if someone is whipping us and caning us at every step of our action, unless that we might, and it becomes an addiction, self-help, like whether it be Jesse Itzer or wherever, this David Goggins or whoever. It's like more and more. It's like, but you don't get fulfillment. Like today, earlier in the morning, I messed up my Rubik's Cube last night. I thought it's just like making bed. I'll solve my Rubik's Cube every morning, so it reorganized my mind, and I did that. But there was no, satisfaction, no contentment, because I fucking hate doing this. Yes, I got the job done, and my rating right now is about 1550 in chess. I can easily go to 17, not easily, I can go to 1700. What I would do, make goals, sub goals. Okay, go on 1550 to go to 1570, go to 1590, 1600, and reward yourself. And you can do that. But then you get so stressed out and burned out because you get this dopamine rush every time you check off the micro goal, and you become, and that's another rat race. Self improvement is another rat race. We think whether it's spiritual self improvement, we think just because it's spiritual self improvement, it's not a rat race. We're moving away from the rat race, but that's exactly what you do. You just getting embroiled in another form of fucking rat race. People who do ayahuasca or DMT, people who do DMT, this, oh, but have you done a 5-AO or DMT? Or if you've done ayahuasca, if you have done that, why not ibogaine? How about a Vipassana retreat 30 days in India? Dude, what you're fucking failing to realize is you're just got caught up in another trap, another spiritual trap of sophistication. Elon Musk would say that, oh, look at me, I'm more humble than you are. I'm more aware of how fucked up I am about my flaws than you are. There's always this subtle form of one-upmanship going on. We always want to be better than either other people, and by saying we're better than, we want to be what the fuck does that even mean? We want to be the best version of ourselves, as if do you know how many people there are who are not, they don't have 0% body fat, who doesn't look like ripped, and like and this is again a Western concept. People think, dude, just go to China and India. There are like billions and billions of people who are like, who doesn't fit the stereotypical image of the best, quote unquote, best version of yourself, where you're completely, and the only way you can ever be that way is becoming enlightened, where you're completely neutral, everything you say is gold, and that's unattainable. But that's exactly what the self-improvement industry wants you to believe. So Taoist takes a completely opposite approach. They value the useless, whether it be a tree like that is rotten, or a disabled person, or some what was the other one, the guy, the horse, the farmer, the horse came and he said maybe it's good, and then next day, he the horse got lost. The farmer said okay, and the people lamented, okay, who knows, and the guy, maybe it's a bad sign, the guy, and the farmer said maybe, and then the horse came back with three more horses, and the farmer and the people, they were saying, oh, you're so lucky, and the farmer said maybe, and then the next day his son got on a horse and broke his leg, and the guys again started moaning, oh, that is so unfortunate, and the guy said maybe, and that's where the uselessness come in. He broke his feet, and the guys were saying, and the next day the draftmen, the soldiers came to draft the son, but he left him, and his life got spared, and they said maybe you're lucky, and he said maybe. The point being, I'm not a good storyteller. There is actually an art in oration. There is actually in France and other parts of the world the art of storytelling. I wonder how Alan Watts or Ramdas, Terence McKenna, were they spitting off the top of the dome verbatim? I mean, you know, were they freestyling, or did they have words written out? Because it's not as easy as it sounds. Ajahn Brahm, I mean, he can do that, and so in Taoism, there's this valuing of the uselessness, because you don't know what's gonna come useful. Just like the movie Slumdog Millionaire. Suppose some event you might happen, or even if you play Jeopardy or any quiz, Sparkle trivia, you realize all those bland, like inane, moment, like which you sort of whisked away somewhere, dusted away somewhere in the background, in the shelf of your attic of your psyche. Somehow it actually, you never know, like how beneficial it can be, like fertilizer. Like, for instance, if someone were to ask me, I don't know, what is the Auld Lang Syne, what we sing, or that triggers me a memory, like what does that mean, and I don't know what it means. Or like Samhain is Halloween, is Irish, right? What are some Irish tradition? And it probably would remind me of the book I read on Irish tradition, or whatever Celtic tradition. Actually, I didn't, but because you see all these weird little details, because it's hard to come with my own quiz and come up with my own answer, because then there's a bias. It's like it's not random because I'm putting a seed. So I guess imagine a random thing like when we were to do Navajo when high school, we did a Navajo sand painting. I mean, we did an essay on Navajo, and that's how we get to learn about the Navajo. Very faint. I remember it has been 20 years ago how they were into, I guess, Navajo sweat lodge, sand painting, I guess. was it Hopi sand painting or Navajo, or the basket weaving and the adobe huts and everything. And if and then later on I learned about arachnology, the study of spider, how the spiders taught Navajo, I think, the how to weave and all this. Well, when we're thinking we're wasting time reading some children's book or about not learning, what good would have learning about Navajo do? But you never know, in Jeopardy or in James Hall's or in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire or whatever. Like, I don't think he was in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. He was in the Beast, Chase. I mean, so it would come handy. You never know. You never know what's gonna come handy. There's nothing is useless at the end of the day. And world was perfect. Everything is perfect, like in its own bizarre way. Like, no matter how messy it seems, your life is, your shelf is, your bookshelf is, your desk is, your room is. Everything is probably in its perfect order, like its perfect place. The Li, what the Chinese would call Li. So nothing is at the end of the day, because you don't know what will what how the universe works. Like the movie Eagle Eye, and spoilers ahead. So if you haven't watched the movie Eagle Eye, stop right now. So even the accountant, again, spoilers ahead. If you haven't watched the movie Accountant with Ben Affleck and Eagle Eye with Shia LaBeouf, stop right now and come back. Those movies, like how spoilers. AI is basically running the whole thing, not an accountant in Eagle Eye. So, like, there's a scene where this guy gets trapped with FBI. FBI cuffs him over, and then there's this crane that hits the building and makes a gaping hole, and he runs and whatever. So, in order for the crane to be there and to hit him, and then in order for to contrive the situation, you realize that even the crane at that location had its value. Everything, every cogs and wheel and pulleys and lever, every machination of the hidden machinery of every marionetted strings and levers, pulleys. It all serves its purpose in this grand scheme of life. We just can't see it, and people think, "Oh, I'm just an extra in this set." But even that, I once, after I bought keto, BPI keto, those pills, I wrote a letter to them, and then they didn't reply. And then I wrote a ranty mail that I watched Blacklist, and there was a side guy, and the way he drew his gun and made two shots, or like he threatened to like kill two people, and I think he did kill two people. It was a Blacklist with some other guy, I forget his name, some German guy in suits, and he was loyal to James Spader, Raymond Reddington. So I told him, even though his screen time was probably for like fucking 5 seconds of just perfect drawing of gun and just killing everyone just with a blinking unflinchingly in like James Bond way, like like that, and his on-screen presence time was like fucking like less than a minute, but he made an impression, indelibly impression, because it doesn't matter if you're an extra or whether it's like a sidekick, or if you play your role, you can make that. Like even Heath Ledger in Joker. I mean, if someone imagine if there's some other guy who spoiled the whole thing because, oh, it's just a Joker. I mean, Batman is the main character. I mean, what good would I serve? I mean, but everything serves its purpose. You cannot do what a spoon cannot do what an Allen key or a wrench or a monkey wrench does, or what a V chisel does. Each has its own purpose. Most people doesn't realize their value, their what they bring. I think some place, I don't know, some Scandinavian country or in Europe, where you can arrange people to talk, just like you can check a library book, you can check out life's experiences. So you talks face to face, you sit down, and each people share their own life experiences. That's as much as I love Joe Rogan. I mean, he has this elitist snobby mentality that if you're no one, if you haven't made it, quote unquote, by societal media, social standards, or Olympic gold level, or climb Everest, or solve Riemann hypothesis, or Fermat's last theorem, whatever, then somehow your life experience don't matter. But you never know how rich and varied people have lived their life. I mean, there are one. I actually wanted to do that, but I didn't. Like, where take video, I mean, photo, I mean, camera randomly with a cell phone and start recording. And this guy was fixing his car, and apparently, who knew? His expertise lies in that domain, that he's a good expert in car engines. So people are expert no matter what. My expert is in cricket. I've learned smattering of Eastern philosophy from Alan Watts. I love electronic music, but that's not an expertise, quote unquote, per se. But and even just living, just reading books, I guess I know a lot about different stuffs, but I'm not a master in anything. Like not even I wouldn't say I'm a jack of all trades, but that's what such a pejorative thing. But like I know like and that what enriches me. Like I have in on front of me an art I made by myself where this montage with like about like this I would say 300 400 stamps, and each stamp is its own little portal, and there's this minute like each stamp is a minutiae or minutiae, however you say it. It's like it's a portal to another dimension. And imagine there are 500 of them. So that's my brain scattered on the art, on the frame. That it's like it's all different amalgamation, collage of different random things like Ptah, the Egyptian god, or like Egyptian Ta king, or like Ramses, or if one moment I'm thinking of wrinkles like rhinoplasty, or like fucking wood, elderberry, or like it's all different. Myrmidon ants, fire ants, forest ants, military ants, and then next one I'll be thinking of Harappa, or like Roman Emperor Nero, or like Caligula, Carinus, or like this Carinus apparently boiled his people who bullied him in high school. He boiled him when he became king, or like Narva or Trajan, or those Roman kings, or what are the names on Eiffel Tower, or like Mandela effect, or like because I that happened to me with Interstellar. I used to think George Clooney is in it. Apparently, it's not. Matthew McConaughey is in it. That so I had that. That was my Mandela effect moment. Even Monopoly, when I used to think he wore a monocle. So that's because the only reason I have all these memories is because the life I lived. And so if some fucking motherfucking asshole fucking bastard used to come and say, "Oh, just because you haven't made it, quote unquote, your life doesn't matter," and you know how offensive it is. And it's always preached by the people who did make it. And what they don't realize is because maybe they have been lucky. Is there maybe who knows? There is some point to the Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. The reason why people become like incels and losers is because maybe who knows? How the fuck are you to be so arrogant to think that you weren't lucky in your life? I'm not making excuses, but at the same time, whether it be winning genetic lottery, I mean, Muay Thai, not anyone can be Muay Thai, you know, very scrawny. And yes, you can build up to it, just like Kumail Nanjiani completely transformed himself. But why? Why the need? I mean, he did it because not because because out of desperation, but this positive psychology, has self industry, they want to sell you the notion it is out of desperation. You need there's an ulage, some manque, that you need that in life. You have some void that need to be filled. And fuck you. Ty Lopez used to like, you know, he went to Tom Billy. That's why I shun this world because I used to like love them. Dan Pena, like how his mom was like, he used to scold his mom, "Why ain't you so positive?" And that's the I made a meme about it, like with the Homer Simpson, like Homer Simpson choking Bart Simpson. "Why aren't you positive?" And that's the mentality we have. We realize we make this draw distinction positive and negative, and we think when in reality it's one. There's yin and yang, there's yang and yin, but the whole thing is just one unit. And that's what Advaita is. That's what Taoist is. That the edge. That's the edge of Taoism. So that was my rant today about the value of useless life. Okay.